Hello, welcome to the Let's Talk Kids Health Facebook Live Show, Episode 9. I'm Dr. Narissa Bauer, your host. I'm a behavioral pediatrician and blogger of Let's Talk Kids Health. The concept of the show is to share information about behavioral health and wellness for children and families everywhere. Each week, I plan to bring you topics and guests to help me advance this mission so that we can all talk together. Now, remember, if you're watching this live, you'll have the opportunity to post comments and ask questions of my guest. The replay will be immediately available after we end the broadcast. Now, if you don't want to miss future episodes or maybe check out the past ones, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Narissa Bauer, MD, and follow my blog Facebook page, Let's Talk Kids Health. Okay, so now to this week's guest. Kelsey Burton started as the executive director of Pause and Think in January of 2016, bringing 2 decades of experience in both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. Kelsey, who is an Indiana native, has been involved with nonprofits since the age of 16. She graduated from Butler in 2006 with a degree in biology and chemistry. And in 2020, Kelsey was selected as United Way's Elevate Awards Nonprofit Employee of the Year. Kelsey lives in Westfield with her husband Josh and their 5 dogs, Ava, Lily, Hermie, Dinky Bean, and Pipsqueak. Pipsqueak is a registered therapy dog with Pause and Think, and Pip is the smallest of their active therapy dogs, weighing under 2 pounds. I'm so excited to have her and her furry friends on the show. Hi, Kelsey.
Hi.
Who's that? Who's
this
that
is
with
Herbie.
you?
He's so excited to be here today. He keeps blocking me. I'm like, buddy, I also need to be seen, right? Yeah.
Oh, hi, Herbie.
Yeah. I have Hermie, and Pipsqueak's here too, so we'll wake her up. She's taking a little snooze, so when she wakes up, I'll let her say hi too.
Well, and of course, if you are watching this live, please drop a comment below with hashtag live. And then if you catch this on replay, use hashtag replay. So so excited to have you. And you know, this topic is something as a behavioral pediatrician I get. And I will admit that I didn't really know much about this. And I selfishly wanted to bring you on to help us understand this.
Awesome.
So let's get started. So this is a question that I wanted to just start off with. So what is a therapy dog and how are they different from a facility dog?
Yep, and it looks like, are you there? Okay, sorry. The storm, we have a terrible storm. Things are cutting out a little bit. So great, you're back. Yeah, no, this is a wonderful question. It's one that we get asked a lot, and also how they differ from service dogs too. So these are kind of, our common questions. So a therapy dog is your pet first and foremost. So this is a dog that lives with you. Hermie sleeps in bed with me at night, don't ya? And they're specially trained to go with me to volunteer in facilities that need emotional support, help, just the unconditional love that a dog can bring. So it's a little bit different than a facility dog. A facility dog is also a type of therapy dog, but they are, instead of going with someone who's volunteering, they can be trained to go to like a school, let's say, and they may work with the counseling department, but not live with the counselor that they're working with. So they can have another handler besides the one that they live with. The other big difference is that therapy dogs, we only want them to work a max of 2 hours a day. That's a best practice for, national, international guidelines. Facility dogs can work a full, 8-hour day at a school or a funeral home or one of those places. So we only work with the therapy dogs that people volunteer with their own dog to go out into the community. And that's where our focus is.
Okay.
And then just to touch on, and then of course they're different from service dogs, which, I think if, service dogs, a lot of times they're trained to work with an individual for a disability or delay. We have, PTSD dogs that help with folks that suffer from that. We have, there's service dogs that are diabetes alert dogs. I mean, it's pretty incredible what these dogs can do. And really, you'll see these out, and these are the kind of dogs, you need to teach your kids to not just run over to a dog and go pet them, because these dogs are working and they have a job that they're doing. And a lot of times they'll have a vest on that says do not pet. And that is because they've been trained to focus on their owner and to focus on the skill at hand, not to focus on everyone. Now, therapy dogs could wear a vest that said, please come pet me, because that's their job, is to, have everyone come over and say hello. And that's how they're trained. They're trained to see how do they do around groups? How do they do around medical equipment? How do they do if there's different people, all different types of people, loud noises, and then group petting, which obviously has gone down a little bit with COVID, but how do they do when several people are around them at one time wanting to pet them, because that does happen. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the big differences. There's a lot of little differences. Those are the big ones.
That was really helpful, because I'll admit that I have families come to me and ask me if I could write a letter to see if they could get an emotional support dog. Now, based on what you just explained, would that be
they're a whole nother thing.
Oh, it is. It's a different thing. Oh, well, please educate me.
Actually, on our pauseandthink.org page, on our frequently asked questions, there's a question that says, what is the difference between therapy? If you click on that, there is an adorable kid-friendly graphic that you can use. You can show kids, I think most adults, it's even good for them. But emotional support animal, there is no training or guidelines that say what they are or aren't. Really what it is it's just a medical professional who says, yes, they need this dog to be able to live with them in non-dog friendly housing. So it kind of allows that to happen. And it used to allow you to fly with the dogs, but they just changed that. And so now emotional support animals don't get the free, get to come fly like they used to for most, I think all airlines. And then some airlines, though, you still can fly with your dog as your pet. You just pay your fee, and you just I've flown with my dogs as my pet before, but not as an emotional support animal. So it's really important for housing reasons. There's some groups locally that work with the community of people that are experience homelessness. And what they will find is if they put them into certain housing, that's the income reduced housing, they won't allow their dog. And so people would rather be homeless with their dog than to go into a facility where they can't have their dog. So this is one of those times where it is important to have that letter, because it is something, that person will not be safe if they don't have their dog with them, because they choose not, and I get that. I'm right there. I mean, I would live on the streets with my dog before I would move into a housing, because they're my family, so that bond is so strong. That human animal bond is so strong. But yeah, so definitely check out that graphic on our page, share it. When we go into schools and talk about what a therapy dog is, we share that with the kids. And they're really cute little cartoon dogs. So.
Awesome. No, I will actually put that here on the show notes and share that with the YouTube description as well. So thank you for that.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So the next question is, how do therapy dogs help youth? I know this is a broad question, but
it's amazing. So I've been doing this role for 5 years, and I actually was just writing up a story the other day about, a kid and one that we had interacted with when I had a therapy dog with me at one point, when I had Daisy, which was our previous therapy dog. And, he was really shy. He was doing the reading program. He was diagnosed with autism. And he, his whole life, you could just tell that people had judged him, had made some preconceived notions about him the moment he walked in the room. And so he was shy, and he was a little shut down. And, the dog does the work, right? I just sit there and I advocate for my dog, but my dog was doing the work that day. And Daisy was, sitting with him, and she climbed up onto his lap and curled into his lap. And he just sat down and he put his book down and he looked at me and he goes, she doesn't care, does she? And I said, care about what? And he said, she doesn't care that I'm different. Oh. And I was like, oh my, and it just my heart. And I said, right. I said, she loves you, buddy, no matter what. And it was just that light bulb moment. Some kids, that's what it takes. It doesn't take me as another person there. It doesn't take, a teacher, or it takes somebody or some being to be able to give them that unconditional love. So, that's an anecdotal story. There's so much science that back this, that it's beneficial. It releases all what we call the warm fuzzies, right? So, the good hormones. And so serotonin and, all those good warm fuzzies that we need and that we don't get enough of a lot anymore. And so especially when you physically pet a dog, it releases all those great hormones. And so just from the fact, first off, seeing the dog releases some, interacting with the dog releases some, touching the dog releases them. So all of those things just result in a good, happy experience. And he's giving me a high five. I talk with my hand and he's trained to give me high fives. So when I talk with my hand, he starts high fiving me. But yeah, and he really wants to be in front of the camera. He does virtual visits with us. And so he's like, I'm supposed to be sitting
closer to the
yeah, look at that. But yeah, so I mean, it does all of that. We also work with kids that are in the hospital and they're very lonely and they're very scared, a lot of them. And so again, we're just bringing this really compassionate presence to an otherwise really scary experience. Here, you want to sit over here, bud? We're gonna see if he'll sit there for a little bit. We'll see if that lasts. But yeah, so we do that. And then we work with like kids who are disclosing or giving their forensic interview after child abuse, which is, probably one of, if not the hardest thing that a kid goes through, is if they've have been a survivor of abuse, that they now have to go in and tell their story. And so we bring the therapy dogs into like facilities like Susie's Place that work with the police and all of that and record what the kids say so they don't have to keep telling their story over and over again. Yep. And so again, that brings in this, they're not going to judge them. They're not going to make the kid feel bad for what they're saying. We always talk about that. They're just there because they're so happy to see you and they're your friend. And so we do that. And then we also do our reading program, which I mentioned with Daisy. And it's amazing because these kids, come into the program, they're usually identified because they have some kind of delay or disability, or they're going through trauma or crisis in their life, or for whatever other reason, they're just really behind on their reading and they're struggling in a classroom setting. So the kids teachers or counselors identify them for the program. And then we bring in our teams, our therapy team, which is a handler and a dog. It's called a team. And they will have the kids read to the dog. And again, the dog's not judgmental. The program is really based on letting the kids do what they need to do. So if they need to stand and pace when they read, great. If they want to sit and snuggle with the dog, great. Like whatever works for them. And we see a reading level increase of 4 grade levels for the kids that are in our program, or 4 reading levels, which is phenomenal. And, I think it's because every week they have this session. And again, it's not one where we're correcting every word they say wrong. We'll help them when they want help, but we let them do what they want to do. Just work on speaking out loud, work on, the words. If they can't read well, then we use the dogs and say, oh, that's okay. Let's look at the picture. What is this picture? Tell Hermie what this picture says. And then they'll tell Hermie what it means. Or if the dog falls asleep, we can use it as a reading comprehension moment and say, uh-oh, Hermie fell asleep. So you're going to have to explain to him what happened in the story because you were so soothing, he went to bed. Oh. And so, we use a lot of those opportunities to help the kids with their reading. So it's, a lot of what we do is work with youth. We work with all age levels, but we do have a lot of programs with youth, and the benefits are amazing. We also work with a group, Brooks Place, which is for kids that are grieving the loss of someone close to them. And we also do their Camp Healing Tree, which is a week-long magical week, just a weekend. It's just magical. And it's where, again, the kids aren't different from one another. They've all experienced this loss. They aren't the kid in class whose dad died or whatever it is. And our therapy dogs, each group has their own therapy dog the whole weekend. And we have seen some amazing breakthroughs at Brooks Place and at Camp Healing Tree of kids just even saying for the first time to the dog that their family member had died, which is a huge step for the healing process. So, we've witnessed that. And that's just, again, they wouldn't tell anyone else, but they would whisper it in the dog's ear, And so, it's just I can't, the things that I've seen, over the years, they bring so much happiness and tears to my eyes and just all of that. So,
and in a way that's very safe and nurturing for these kids. I'm getting goosebumps just hearing these stories.
Oh, I do too. And sometimes I'm just watching the other therapy teams because I'll just be there, to observe, or maybe they're dropping off paperwork, and I watch this stuff happen from a distance, and it's like, whoa. just like this is happening every day. We're responsible for this every single day. Our volunteers are doing this like magic. I mean, we have an event every year in October called Dogs Are Magic, because they are. I mean, there's no other way for me to explain this amazing connection that happens, and happens so quick.
Yeah.
The dog walks in the room and people immediately go from being tense to, the edge gets taken off, and you can physically see it sometimes. Yeah. And, sometimes with parents, especially when, they're at the hospital and their kid's getting ready to get chemotherapy or some kind of testing, and the kid's doing okay. A lot of times the kids are like, coloring in their book or whatever, but you can feel that tension on the parents, and to just give them something to think about other than what is happening next, and this is really scary, and just give them a few moments to just think about something else, and then they get to like relive that moment with their kid, like talk about, oh, did you see Augie was here today, and yeah, I remember Augie, and all of that kind of stuff is really important, in that process. And that's why we love like partnering with places like Peyton Manning Children's Hospital and Ascension St. Vincent, because they look at the overall healing process, the overall health. So it's mind, body, and spirit. It's not just, physically the wound is healed and that's it. It's okay. Are there wounds that we can't see? Are there things that we need to address besides just, whatever physical ailments happening? So yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, I had no idea how extensive you work in the community. I mean, you're everywhere.
Yeah, we are everywhere. We even last year we were at 50,000, but we impact the lives of 60,000 people a year. And we do this with mostly volunteers. I mean, we have a few part-time paid staff. I'm the only full-time paid staff, but the rest is done by hundreds of amazing dedicated volunteers.
I mean, let's give them a round of applause.
Yeah, seriously, say yay Army, yay volunteers. You're a volunteer too, bud. So we have it's pretty unique because we have both human and canine volunteers, which is kind of the canine volunteers even get their own ID when they it's pretty cute. So yeah, pretty fun.
Oh, well, so let's transition to this is a perfect question. How does a dog become a therapy dog? Like, I bet there are people watching this and thinking, oh, I wonder if my dog could do this.
Yeah, and we would love to have you. So, there's a lot of different guidelines out there by a lot of different therapy group organizations. We pride ourselves on following what a few of these national and international organizations put out there as, this is the way that we have found works the best and is the safest and, has some scientific backing to it. Every decision we make, we're very scientific backed, because every decision we make from, your kids, I just called my dog my kid, your dogs, there we go. Your dogs, shouldn't wear costumes when they're doing a therapy visit, which you may think, well, but that's kind of fun. Well, we have found that touch piece, it's important for them to touch the fur, not the shirt. And that's all backed by research papers. And there's a safety component. Their outfits could get caught on medical equipment, or, could be carrying some kind of something that they, sit in or get soaked in or whatever. And so every decision we make, there's a backing to it. We aren't just sitting in a room and thinking, you know what, I think we're going to do X, Y, Z. So that's, we really pride ourselves on that. And for the therapy dog piece, for us, it's pretty, there's a lot of steps. I'll just be really honest, but it's because, there's a lot of safety components involved here. And we want to make sure that also, number one, your dog enjoys the work. I have 5 dogs. I would love for all of them to be therapy dogs. I have one that is a therapy dog, and then Hermie does our virtual events for us. He won't be doing in-person events for us because he's a scaredy cat. I plugged his ears when I said that, but he's very fearful, and I know he would not enjoy it. Would he pass the evaluation? He might, he might be able to pull through and get all the skills and do all of that. But I know he's not going to enjoy it. And that's what our evaluators would know. He's not going to enjoy the work. We want to see a dog that has that temperament, that just loves people. That when you go outside and there's a person and a dog standing there, are they going to go over and say hi to the person first, or are they may say hi to the dog, but then they're going to go to the person, what are they more drawn towards? Do they like to be pet? Some dogs actually don't like to be pet. And we teach a lot in our handlers class about reading dog stress signals and body language to learn how to read a dog. The dogs are throwing out signals all the time to us. So if you know how to read those, you become, more in tune to the needs of your dog. So we have, again, all these policies. One is that they have to be a year old. So I know is your dog a year yet?
My second one, not yet.
Yeah, your
9
puppy.
months.
Okay. So, and the reason you'll be able to speak to this is because as great as puppies are, they are puppies and they are still chewing and exploring and learning and all of that. And so a lot of times they just aren't ready to be a therapy dog yet. And even at 1, very rarely do we have a lot of 1-year-old therapy dogs. They're usually, 2, 3, 4 by the time that they've calmed down enough to be able to focus on the work at hand and not be so excited to see everyone that they're, can't focus on what they're supposed to be doing. We also want you to have lived with your dog for 6 months. So if you've adopted a dog, we want you to have lived with them. And that's because you need to get to know your dog. Your dog will change as they become more comfortable with you in your house. We just adopted Dinky Bean in January. And even in these 2 months that we've had her, she has completely come out of her shell. And like from, the first couple of, like even the first month we had her, she was very subdued and quiet. And now she's picking, she's wanting to go play and picking fights with the other dogs. And it's like, wow. I mean, and that happened in 2 months. So we want them to be settled. We want them to know their basic obedience. So our therapy skills class is not a basic skills class. They should come knowing sit, down, leave it, wait, all of those kind of basic skills. And that's why we require them to have a in-person group positive reinforcement class. And I'll talk about positive reinforcement in a second, because that's a really important piece of the work that we do. And then after they do all that stuff, then you fill out an interest form on our website, and someone calls you and does an assessment. And so they just talk through and make sure your dog's ready for our class, because we don't want to waste your time. We don't want to waste the dog's time. We don't want to waste our trainer's time. And so if your dog, let's say you say, oh yeah, my dog sometimes does, growl at men or something like that. Well, then we need to have a real conversation about if this is the right line of work for, right volunteer work for both of you. And then they come through a 5-week training class with us once they get approved to be in the class. The first week is only handlers class. And this is really, like I said, where we teach the handler how to read body language, stress signals, how to advocate for your dog. That's a huge thing we say all the time. Your job as a handler is to be there and advocate for your dog. So if my dog starts acting like they don't like the venue, they get sick, anything like that, then my job is to protect my dog and protect the experience that we're having and remove the dog. And sometimes, I know one of my dogs really liked elder care or didn't like elder care facilities. I don't know why, just the smells. I'm not sure what it was. So I had to advocate for her and not make her go do that work. You know what I mean? Say, I want to go there. So we're going to do that, because I could tell she didn't enjoy it. And then after that first week of handlers class, you have 4 weeks of in-person training. And this is just for therapy skills. So again, this is how do they do around loud noises, group settings. We bring out medical equipment like, IV poles and wheelchairs. How do they do walking down a hallway? Some of the facilities we go to are very crowded and small. So just, all of those kind of skills. And then if they're ready, they take their big test, their evaluation afterwards. And after their evaluation, they either become a therapy dog or occasionally, we may have them work on some skills and try to come back. But if you've made it to that evaluation part, we've deemed your dog as probably pretty set to be able to do this work. And then after that, we have all of these venues that we help manage. We have over 60 different places in central Indiana that you can take your dog with you as part of this program. And we help you kind of like line up. We have an ambassador program where we have other teams that kind of help hold your hand through it so you can figure out where you want to go and what kind of work you and your dog want to do. And what I love about our organization is that we do have that piece. Some organizations, you kind of take the test and you're on your own. You have to go find your own facilities. You have to do all that. We've already vetted these facilities. We've made sure, we've done site visits. We've done all of these things to make sure it's a good experience for everybody involved. And so that's, I just, again, love, like I came when Pause and Think was already around for 15 years. And these are all the things that drew me to them. This is all the stuff that I thought, wow, they're really doing this stuff right. And then we've just keep improving, all the time. So in the last 5 years, we've just improved so much and grown so much. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. On our website, on Pause and Think's website, there's a therapy team requirement page, and it goes through prerequisites and requirements. But I would say, if you have a dog right now that you think, hey, this would be awesome for them, make sure you've had that group training class. And the reason we want to see your dog in a group, again, it's not just because we're throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. It's because we've learned that if you've only done one-on-one training with a trainer in your house with your dog, that they'll come to the therapy skills class, which is a group setting, and some of them can't handle that. They're very distracted. They're unable to, focus and all of that kind of stuff. And so that, again, is one of those things. We're just trying to make it so your time in our class is useful, and you don't come in and then all of a sudden realize my dogs can't cope in a group group class. And because, therapy work is busy. I mean, we're in hospitals, we're in schools, we're in libraries, we're in facilities that are busy, elder care facilities. So we need to make sure the dogs can handle a lot of distraction too. And then I talked about positive reinforcement. So that is the backbone of our agency and really of therapy work across any place that knows what they're doing. This is a best practice, is positive reinforcement. And that means that we don't use choke chains, prong collars, shock collars, nothing like that to be able, when the dog is working or to train them. And we also don't, push their butt down to get a sit, or we don't, push their nose when into a potty accident, or, it's all of those kind of stereotypical, the newspaper, type thing. Right. We don't do the alpha. I'm the alpha and I am the boss of this dog and I need to control this situation. We don't use words like that. Instead, what we do is it's, again, very scientifically based. Those other ways are older training methods. So there's new and better. So why wouldn't we do, what has been found to be better? And what we do is positive reinforcements. There's lots of treats. There's lots of love and praise. And there's lots of whatever the dog likes. Some dogs don't like treats. But let's say you get a ball out and they're like, yeah, buddy. So you might say, okay, I'm going to get you to do your sit or your down. And then you get your ball for a minute. And that's, their gold sticker that they get. And part of the other reason is we want everything around this to be related to the human animal bond. And we want it to be positive. We want it to be a positive experience for the dogs, for us, and then for people that we interact with. If we take a dog out to a facility and let's say the dog's not doing exactly what the handler wants and the handler yanks on the leash, the whole environment changes, right? The whole vibe of what we're going for changes, and we don't want that. This is all about being positive and making things better than they were before we got there. And so if you do those kind of things, we see this kind of stuff out all the time, and it's unfortunate when we see it. It's so hard for me to go to a farmer's market now or anywhere where people have dogs, because I'll see those things and I want to run over and say, no, there's a better way. And it won't cause your dog any harm, and it won't make them sad, and it won't make them, lose a little bit of that bond you have with your dog. And that trust. We work on that a lot. It's about the trust between a handler and the dog, for sure. Yeah. So, I always advocate that. There are so many good positive trainers in our community here in Indiana. And so if you need, advice on where to go, please let us know. We know some, we don't know all of them, but we know a lot of them. And just because a place on the website may say they use positive methods or balanced methods, you need to really make sure they do. Because unfortunately, people don't always totally know what that means. Right. Or use those. Balanced training means they use a little positive and a little negative together. And so you just have to know kind of what that means. So yeah, it's, again, like I said, it's just about making a really good experience. And that's one of the key ways to do that.
Yes. So I was curious about what's the minimum age requirement? For a handler?
12. We actually have junior handlers. So great question. So from 12 to 16, you can become a handler. Well, 12 to 15, I guess I should say. We just need a parent to be able to be there with you, a parent or guardian or, whomever it is that takes care of the kid, to be there with them. At 16, you're able to basically do it on your own with, you have to have your parents sign off on it still until you're 18. But yeah, we have some awesome junior handlers. We have some that are, in that age bucket of they're very young and their mom or dad or sometimes we even allow like an older brother or sister who's over 18 to be the adult with them. And it boils down to they need to be able to physically get there. We need someone to drive them. And then that way too, we're just taking that extra precaution. But then when they turn 16, yeah, I mean, we have a few I remember there's one girl I met at a training class, and when the trainer said, because we had masks on, the trainer said, oh yeah, she's 16. I'm like, what? She's more mature than I am. I was like, she's amazing. So, I mean, we just have some incredible kids that do this program for us.
Wow, that's great. I think my daughter, as soon as she turns 12, she's going to be like, I want to do that.
Yeah, well, and on that note, we love kids of all ages to come help with our training classes. Oh. So it doesn't matter. I mean, we don't want like babies or toddlers, but just because it's, I think, too hard for everybody. But yeah, I mean, once they hit about 4 or 5 years old, we have kids of all ages come in and help with the training class. And we love that because we get to see how the dogs do around kids, which is awesome. And the kids love it because they get to go over and pet a dog and help set up cones. And, I mean, the kids really love that. And so again, it's one of those things, if you have a kid, and I think until 12, mom or dad has to come, but then after 12, I think I'd have to check my volunteer handbook. I'm not the volunteer coordinator, right? So I can't remember everything off the top of my head. But I think at 12, then they can come, and volunteer if mom or dad drops them off. But it's awesome. And the kids, like I said, they love it. And we love to see, some dogs just light up when they have kids around them. And it's like night and day. It's like, oh yeah, they're totally need to be in the schools and the library. And we like to see that because then we can see really where they would be, the best placement for them.
Right. And so I assume throughout that whole process, you're evaluating the handler as well as the dog, the team, and then providing them recommendations once they finish.
Yeah. And we like to, some of them come in already knowing what they want to do. I want to do the READ program. And so then we just make sure that's going to fit. If they say, I want to do the READ program and their dog is a dog that needs to be active and walking, sitting and listening to stories for an hour may not fit. So then we, try to just let them know hey, here's some other opportunities and kind of ease them into that transition. Because sometimes they do have their heart set on something, or they want to go to elder care facilities because, their mom was at one and loved a therapy dog. And then we find out that maybe, that's not a great venue for them, but that's okay. Because we have so many other places that they can work with seniors, so we try to help them with that. And you brought up a great point. Yeah. We always say it's the therapy team. It's the handler and the dog. So it's not just a therapy dog. I'm in on this too. And I'm the biggest culprit usually of when we get lazy on training and stuff. It's me. So, yeah.
Well, your story about the positive reinforcement really, sort of just a side story for me is that I used to run parent training workshops and groups, and I was training future pediatricians at Riley. And a lot of the residents, when they were learning praise and, sticker charts and all of those kind of strategies, some of them did not have kids of their own, but they would practice on their pets.
Yes.
And I said, absolutely, that works,
Yes. So. Well, and we do another program called our Youth Canine program where we pair up youth from vulnerable communities with shelter dogs, and they train the shelter dogs in basic skills. And we go to the Juvenile Detention Center. We work with Hamilton County Youth Assistance Program and Warren Central High School. And these kids, a lot of them have never had positive praise in their life, right? So when we come in, we talk about that. What would you rather have? Would you rather when you aren't doing your math assignment for me to say, okay, let's set aside, X amount of time a day for you to focus on this. And if you do this, then you get a gold star at the end of the week. Or would you rather me smack you on the back of the head? Really, that's because that's what the dogs, a lot of what they see is the dog gets smacked, and or kicked or whatever. And they're seeing that in their house. And it's funny, it's a light bulb moment for them. Oh, I would never do that to my dog. Or yeah, right. So we take that when you grow and you're a parent, take that same philosophy as you continue to go, because it's that same thing. And we go to Riley too. Yeah. So yeah, about half the therapy dogs there are pause and think dogs.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so I will see if, there's, again, I think after the show, I'm going to have a lot of questions, and some other folks may ask about this. But again, I'm going to be sharing that infographic. your website. Is there anything else that you want to share about Pause and Think? I mean, you guys have so much going on.
We do. I am going to do a tiny little plug for a walk we have coming up on May 23rd called Walking for Dreams. Lots of nonprofits participate in it. We call our little leg of it Walking for Pause. It's a family-friendly, dog-friendly walk on the canal. And it's obviously a fundraiser for us. And we have like prizes for the people that raise the most money. And it's virtual and in person this year. So, if you're vaccinated or feel safe enough to come out and walk with us, awesome. If not, you can still walk virtually. We'd love to have you. You can put a team together. You can join my team, which is Pipsqueak Pals and Pals, which is, let me get her out real quick. So here's Pipsqueak.
Oh my goodness, look at Pipsqueak.
She's so tired. She's like, this rain, I'm pooped. But yeah, she's only 1.8 pounds. She's a therapy dog. She's really good at what she does. It always kind of cracks me up how little she is and how like she runs to people or waddles. She's special needs. So she waddles to them, but it's always pretty cool to see. Did I wake you up?
Oh, you did.
Yeah, I did.
What kind of dog is Pipsqueak?
She's a Yorkie, and we rescued her. She was from a puppy mill situation, and she was so small that they said, awesome, we can make a lot of money off of her. And then she had just a ton of physical things wrong, so they wanted to get rid of her. And we fostered her, and then foster failed and had to keep her. But she was supposed to live for only 6 months, and she has now been alive for 6 years since we've gotten her. And she has a children's book. And what I love about Pip is she relates to kids that have special needs instantly because, she looks different. She walks different. And so we talk a lot about, with kids like, yeah, she has different abilities and yet she's still here, bringing so much joy to you and joy to the world and just all of that kind of stuff by being here. And she has a lot of value and the kids really relate to that. I mean, they'll say, oh, she's like me or, whatever. And so that's been just incredible to see her, bond. And we don't discriminate against breeds or against special needs for dogs or people. So, we have some dogs that may need carts, or the wheels or whatever. So yeah, I mean, we work with people to make accommodations for that kind of stuff because it is so important for kids to see dogs and people like them, in all these different situations.
I love that. Can you mention that children's book again? That Pipsqueak?
Yeah, it's I should have brought one out, but yeah, it's I think it's on our Pause and Think page still. Okay. I'll have to check, but it's called The Complete Pipsqueak, and so it talks about how she has all of these different things that she has going on, but at the end of the story she's still a complete pipsqueak. So it's really cute. It was this artist behind me with this painting, Gabriel Lehman. He's a local artist. He he illustrated it, and then his wife Jamie Lehman wrote the book for us. So yeah, it was a lovely surprise, and then all proceeds benefit Pause and Think. So
yeah, and again, I'll share that with the show notes as well.
Yeah, I think we have some left. I have to do a reprint pretty soon. So I think I have like a handful, 5 or 10 left. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet. And she has a huge following on Instagram. I happened to I checked right before and I was like, wow.
She has over 10,000 followers. And we haven't tried, Narissa, I promise. Like we haven't been like out there like farming for likes or anything like that. It's just people love her. We were out in an ice cream shop and we were sitting there eating ice cream and people were this couple over here was staring at us. And I thought, well, maybe I've spoken. I'm out in the community a lot. So maybe I've spoken somewhere. And all of a sudden I hear them go, hey, is that Pipsqueak? And I'm like, oh, for Pete's sake, my dog has a celebrity following out.
It's the paparazzi.
Yes. And then, yeah, they had to meet her and all that. But it was just cracked me up. And she's just such a unique little girl that I think she resonates with a lot of people.
I love that. Yeah. So I have one more question.
Sure.
And also, if anybody else who's viewing this has any questions, please post them now. But so my other question is around just in general, like what does a virtual therapy visit look like versus like in person? Because now with COVID, we've had to pivot, right? Yeah. And for those people interested, like what would they expect? Or what
yeah, so that's great. We have we do virtual visits with a lot of our program partners, but then we started about a month or two ago a program called Pause to Connect that's open to anyone, anywhere. So you can go and sign up on our on our page, but you get a 15-minute virtual visit with a therapy dog. And they are different, right? But we found there's research that backs that even just seeing the dogs still does all that great stuff that it does when you are in person with them. That's why like our Instagram feeds are filled, mine with all sorts of dogs because I love looking at them. And so what we do is there's a bunch of different things depending on the age of the person on the call. If they're younger, we'll do games with them, some enrichment. Like with Hermie, I'll put up my paws. There'll be a treat in one paw. I'll ask the kid, what hand do you think the treat's in? The kid will tell me, and then we'll see what Hermie thinks. Hermie will pick the paw, and we'll play games like that. We do that with cups too. And then it's more interactive for the kid and the dog and stuff like that. And it keeps the dog's interest a little bit more. Sometimes the kids read to the dogs still virtually, which is awesome. And then for some of our older, adults that we see, or just adults in general that are on the call, they sometimes just want to ask questions. Tell me about Hermie. What kind of breed is he? All of that kind of stuff. And they just want to learn about him or see his tricks. We don't do a lot of tricks in person, right? That's not what the in-person visits are about. But for the virtual visits, it's a great opportunity for us to show, because Hermie is a man of many tricks. He can do, rollover, army crawl, speak, all sorts of agility stuff. So sometimes we'll do agility. So just all sorts of things that we can show them that you can just see, people just get happy to see it. And so that's really what we're doing. But with kids, we have a little bit more flexibility because they can still do that reading piece too.
Right.
So really it's what you want it to be.
Oh, I love that. And so the process sounds pretty easy. You just go sign up and is there a cost there? Or?
Nope, it's totally free. Yep. We got a grant from FC Tucker, their Giving Circle. So we were able to offer these, all of our services are free for people. And that's because we have amazing donors, individuals and corporate and grants who cover the costs for this. So yeah, and again, we're always looking for donors, that's kind of how we're able to do what we do, and to make sure people are insured and trained and we have staff and all of that stuff. So our overhead's pretty tiny, let me tell you, compared to all the other nonprofits I've worked with, but, pretty small. But we do so much with what we have.
Yeah. Congratulations, serving 60,000 said in a year?
And last year was, we're just under 50,000, which I, knew it would go down a little bit. I actually thought it may go down a lot. And still with the virtual stuff, we still had a huge impact. And we are back out. We're so happy we got to get back out into the hospitals in the last week. A few of the hospitals have opened back up. And we, one of the quotes, I love this, that one of the nurses said was, the thing I missed most during all of this was the therapy dogs. And I thought, wow, wow. And we are very holistic in our care. So we don't just go see patients. We also see doctors and nurses and other staff. And that's true at any facility we go to. So a lot of times they need it as much or more, if they've had a hard time than even the patients. So.
Right. And and I guess my other question related to that. Oh, hold on one second. We have a comment from Nicole. I love this. Great work. I lost my question now. It'll come to me. It was kind of related to that. Therapy visits. We
were talking about seeing doctors and the holistic approach. I don't know if that.
Yeah, no, it was all related to all of that, but
it's okay. It happens to the best of us. Great, Hermie. It happens.
I know. Well, now I got it. I got it.
Here it is.
So, for educators or other community organizations watching this, and they don't yet have people coming in, volunteers, and they want to, is there a process for them?
Yeah, great question. Yeah. So they just need to email info@pauseandthink.org and just say, hey, we're interested in having therapy dogs come out. And then we'll send them a questionnaire, and the questionnaire is based on the type of facility. Now, the thing is, it has to be a request from somebody who's a decision maker, right, at these facilities. So even if I, as an individual, really want, my mom or somebody is in a memory care facility and I really want them to have therapy dogs come, the request has to come from the facility. Yeah. So if you do have that, go talk to one of, the activities director or someone there and say, I'd love to see this. Can you make a request? And then we do the questionnaire, and then you do go on our wait list. And then we fill that wait list as we have volunteers that are able to go. So you just have to be a little patient. It doesn't happen overnight. We do have about 125 therapy teams, but we have 60 venues and we have a lot of one-off stuff. And we can do that too. Like if you want us to come out to your place of work and provide stress relief for all of the workers, we've done that during accounting season. We've done that. Just about anywhere we'll come out and do that too. And that's always fun for everybody to get that break, for employee appreciation weeks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So those one-time requests are a lot easier for us to fill than the ongoing like school programs. So just be patient. We'll work on getting teams trained and help us recruit teams. You see an awesome dog out somewhere, say, hey, have you thought about being a therapy team with Pause and Think? And then we'll be able to fill your request a lot faster.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then I guess the reading program, as a follow-up, last question, is that always only in a group setting in a school or?
No. So in the school, it's individual with one kid and the therapy team. And then, and that's how we always do them. It's one kid. And that's because we don't want them to feel self-conscious when other kids listen.
Yeah.
So that's why we do it. So we do it in like the fishbowl setting, where it's safe and people can see us, but also where they don't feel like mom or dad or someone's listening. But we also have them at libraries. And so we're the partner for Indy Public Library System, Westfield, Carmel, Brownsburg. I'm forgetting a bunch, Plainfield, and a bunch of other ones I'm forgetting. Our schedule is on our website, and it does have listing of all the library visits. Those are open to the public. You just call the branch and say, I want to sign up my kid to do a therapy visit. Right now, most of them are virtual, but we've been getting little words that June and July, we should be able to be back in some of the libraries to be able to do the in-person ones, which are so much fun. So if you need to pick up a library book, then you can, have your kid read to the dog, pick up your library book and come back and get them. And it's, perfect. So
that sounds fun.
Yeah. I love it. I love to be the fly on the wall as much as I can at these things, just to kind of like watch how they happen, because it's so neat to see what happens. So, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for educating me about all of this whole world. And so that way, when I get a request for a letter, I know what I'm writing about or what I need to do. Yep. I'll be sharing all those resources, Kelsey, that you shared with us today. Thank you so much for your time. And I'm so glad that the wind and the rain did not cause any problems with this broadcast.
There was one glitch, and that was it, because I thought, I lost her. And I'm like, do I keep talking? And then you came back. I know. It's it's one of those days where I'm having to remind the dogs they have to potty outside. Yeah. I'm sorry, guys.
I know. Look at he's like,
Except for this one. She doesn't go out in the storm. She has potty pads when it storms. So I'm too little for that, guys.
Oh, Pipsqueak. And would you be okay if I shared the link to the book also?
Oh, yeah, of course. Book? Yeah, of course.
I love children's books. I talk about children's books all the time.
Oh, great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's and we're going to get a reprint done, and we're going to print it on a little bit harder, I think, paper this time. But what's kind of cool about it is the way he did it, that you can almost use each page as a coloring page too. So some of our kids will actually color the whole book and make every page she's a complete Pipsqueak. They color her in at every page. So because every ailment she has, he would color that section.
Yes.
And then by the end, she's all colored. So some of the kids go back through and say, no, I want her colored in every page. And so that's always kind of fun. Yeah. You are so tired today.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, well, it was so great seeing. Oh,
and Ava's down on the floor crying. My old dog is down on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
He knows we must be wrap it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I do want to just thank you for your time today. Thank you to the dogs who made an appearance.
No, thank you for having me. I mean, obviously, this is a passion of mine. I love talking about it. I could talk for days about all this. So I love it.
Oh, well, I hope that folks got some great information about it. And even if they don't live in Indiana, I mean, they learned about the virtual therapy visit. They learned the difference about these different types of therapies. And so,
we've even had people out of the country do the Pause to Connect virtual visit.
So, great.
So it's open to anyone. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Well, so I'm going to just tell you that thank you so much for coming
Thank
on
you.
the show. And so next week, my special guest will be Jennifer Meisogland when we talk trauma-informed intervention in parenting. And that will be Thursday next week at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. But remember, if you do have any suggestions or any future topics that you would like or guests, please feel free to reach out to me at letstalkkidshealth@gmail.com. Drop me a comment below or message me on social media. And remember, consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Narissa Bauer MD, to be alerted when I go live each week, or follow my blog Facebook page. Again, Kelsey, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
we'll see you next week.